again.
Jess, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. What an amazing social feat that you have got, close to 16, maybe even 17,000 followers on LinkedIn. You talk about all the good stuff, recruitment, rec to rec, your own business, and of course the hot topic of the personal branding in this space. So I would love to hear your story.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much for having me as well. So my story is I've been in recruitment for 15 years now, so definitely a seasoned recruiter. I've recruited pretty much anything and everything you can think of over the years. Moved to Sydney 8 years ago, so I'm originally from the UK, and yeah, ever since then been continuing in recruitment. Started my own recruitment agency about 2.5 years ago now, and that's all rec to rec. So I actually help recruiters get hired predominantly in Sydney, but also Brisbane and Melbourne as well. So addressing the challenges of a candidate short market by headhunting and proactive searching, but also focusing on my own personal branding journey on LinkedIn as well, which is ultimately my lead generation tool. So I'm very big on growing that out and also teaching other recruiters that there's an easier way to do it than making cold BD calls. So yeah, that's my journey and where I am at the moment.
Yeah, cool. I love it. I really, I enjoyed reading and actioning and discussing a lot of your thought leadership and subject matter expertise. So be sure to go and follow Jess. I'll be popping her link down in the comments below. She puts out great content in that space. And I would love your insights, Jess, on, you mentioned that it's a very candidate-driven market at the moment. Could you walk us through that?
Yeah, for sure. So in Sydney, well, in Australia as a whole, recruitment is in very high demand. So there's a lot of jobs out there and not enough consultants to recruit them. There's also a very candidate short market in most industries as well. So what that's meant is that there's a huge talent shortage in Australia, and it's really hard to find high quality talent. So recruiters are under more pressure than ever to, instead of relying on channels such as job adverts, for example, they actually have to go out and headhunt and find candidates on behalf of their clients. It's very time consuming at the moment. So what that means is it's very highly pressured. You need a lot of resilience, probably more than any other time in the recruitment industry. So yeah, recruiters are facing some challenges at the moment with that, but I mean, that's why our clients need us. So in some ways, it's a good market to be in at the same time.
Yeah, cool. And what drives that? I guess maybe you could unpack the last 15 years. I'm sure you've seen lots of cycles, but certainly from where I'm coming from the Dubai aspect, GCC in general, Saudi, Qatar, you post a job and you literally within an hour have got hundreds, and I'm not even joking, of applications to scroll through on your dashboards. What causes it to flip to the other way to the market?
Wow, yeah, total opposite in Sydney. I actually rarely use adverts purely because they're not high quality. I would say we've never fully recovered since COVID, in all honesty. So a couple of years ago, there was something like 36% of recruiters in Australia got made redundant in like a 1 or 2 month period of time. So very, very difficult time for recruiters. No one knew what was happening in the world. Recruiters' visas got cancelled because a lot of recruiters are actually sponsored. They're from overseas. They all went home to their home countries. And then what's happened is, even though the market over the last couple of years has definitely picked back up, there's such a recruiter shortage that what that's meant is that all the jobs aren't being filled. And then that's not to mention that it's been the most candidate short market in over 50 years in Australia as well. So with unemployment rates at an all-time low, candidates aren't in the market for new positions at the moment. So recruiters are really, really struggling to find high quality talent, and the role needs to be compelling enough for them to move. They're not looking for work, so the role needs to be way better than the conditions that they get at the moment. So that's, yeah, a few different factors, but I don't think we've ever recovered since COVID, to be honest.
Right. And so I guess, do you think it's because migration is playing a big factor, and then potentially in other parts of the world, everyone is migrating to warmer weather climates, etc.?
Yeah, I would definitely say that plays a big part. So the Australian visas, they change all the time as well. So, for example, sometimes there was a time when recruitment got taken off the skill shortage list, which meant you couldn't get sponsored. That didn't happen for very long. They put it straight back on again. But because of that and the ups and downs, people don't commit because they feel like they're in an unstable position, or if they can't get their permanent residency at the end, if they're on just one of the 2-year visas where there's no stream to PR, it seems a bit risky to like build a life here, so that people aren't staying as much as they once were when there was that pathway to permanent residency and when it was a lot easier to get sponsored. So when I got my sponsorship, I had my PR within a couple of years, whereas now being on the pathway is almost impossible. So definitely visa issues in a lot of roles. Recruitment, I'm talking about specifically, but a lot of professions as well.
Yeah. And I guess the government will probably soon have to open the gates, and then it will, I guess people will flood in, and then maybe the cycle will change and we'll be inundated with talent. And I want to come back to that or touch on that. You mentioned that it's very hard to find talent. Do you think that that is the actual case, or people just lack this capabilities to be able to display it? And secondly, how do you, or what do you do to be able to look for talent?
Yeah, sure. So no, it's definitely a lot harder to find talent. And the reason being is because the talent's not active in the market. We're all tapping into passive candidates who only want to speak to you if you've got something better to offer. So skill-wise, in Australia or worldwide, we definitely have the skills and capability, but no one wants to jump ship. And there's also word of recession at the moment. So a lot of people, they've been in their positions, a year or so now. If they moved during the COVID period, they've got a new position, they're stable, they've passed probation, then interest rates have just increased. There's talks of a recession. It's just not the time where people were making riskier moves. So yeah, and that's really difficult for recruiters to deal with that, because that's something completely out of our control. So the candidates that we're speaking with have to be in a certain place in their life to want to take that on. Everyone's got different motivations for wanting to move, of course, but stability is huge.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right that, stability is obviously a major factor, and coming into recession, then probably employers then don't have capacities to be increasing budgets for salaries. So it's a bit of a catch. Yeah. And so when you're screening, or when you're proactively going out to find recruiters or whomever you're actually sourcing the talent for, what are you looking for to say, yep, this lady or this professional would be a great fit for the role that I'm sourcing for? What are you looking for?
For me personally, I specialize in agency recruitment, so I don't do too much talent acquisition. I also find if somebody's worked in talent acquisition, 9 times out of 10, they'd never go back into agency. They tend to have done their time, they're over it, and that's it. They've got their life set up now in the internal world. So what I specifically look for is agency recruiters who are probably got a couple of years experience. They're not over the agency recruitment world at the moment. They're still hungry, they're still motivated, but perhaps there's something missing in their current role. So I like to keep myself very up to date with what the market's doing. So for example, IT in March just dropped off the face of the earth. So I knew there was going to be a lot of consultants, amazing consultants in the market. So I went for those. So I kind of just chase what the market's doing. During COVID, I chased healthcare and medical as well. I knew that it would be such a busy market. So I'm always just trying to work out what's happening in the world, and then looking for consultants that have that agency experience within that, where something may be lacking in their current role. And I get the conversation going around what that something is, because 9 times out of 10, most people aren't interested in work until I say, hey, look, I've got you this opportunity, it pays this much more commission, and you can become a leader within this period of time. So that's the way that I would communicate with people.
Yeah, perfect. And I think from my own personal experience, the amount of people on LinkedIn in the Middle East in comparison to Australia is significantly less. I really don't think that it's a heavily saturated profile, and hats off to you for being able to grow your brand so well, by the way, considering that there's less people on the platform. But what are the socials, or how else are you, getting hold of people if LinkedIn is not as, a very well adopted or used tool in comparison to other parts of the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. And rec to rec, I would say, is done differently than any other industry. The reason behind that is because most consultants have the luxury of logging on to Seek Talent Search, and finding out who's just uploaded their profile, and then they've got immediate calls. Recruiters don't upload their profile to Seek because their boss can probably see it. So the candidates that I speak to are all in LinkedIn. The luxury for me, though, is most recruiters are on LinkedIn. They do have some kind of presence. So that's better than a lot of other industries, because let's just say a recruiter, I don't know, warehousing. The chances of them being on LinkedIn, there's no way they're going to be on Seek. So my market's all on LinkedIn. Yeah. But it's always one thing I say to my candidates and my clients is, I don't promise timeframes, and the reason I don't do that is because it's a headhunt, it's a communication, it's about building a relationship with somebody and understand what they would move for, whether that's now 3 months or 12 months. Mine's not a case. The work that I do, I don't just pick up the phone and say, hey, do you want a new role? Because if a recruiter's doing well and they're billing very well and they're generating revenue, why would you move and start at zero? There's no logical reason why you would do that unless, you know, you don't like your boss or your commission has just been cut, or there's like a logical reason.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I love it. Great insights. And so before I come to personal branding, what are you seeing in the Australian job market? So, and again, I know you're rec to rec, but maybe just in general perspective, is there a lot of vacancies in recruitment or in healthcare despite COVID sort of finishing up, or what are the hot sectors?
Yeah, great question. Honestly, it changes quite heavily. I would say at the moment, what's booming is anything construction and real estate seems to be massive at the moment. Medical and healthcare is always very consistent, very busy as well. IT's gone very, very quiet. So just due to the redundancies with the likes of the bigger companies, the Googles, the Amazons, etc. When in February, March time, they made tens of thousands of redundancies, the market's still picking up with IT recruitment in that sense. It's very quiet on that side. But yeah, I'd say medical and healthcare, real estate and construction are the busiest at the moment. All others are pretty stable though. It's still a solid market all around.
Yeah, good, cool, okay. So I guess from a personal branding perspective and recruiters, you know, trying to build their personal brand and get noticed, it does take time and of course trust in the audience and the content that you're putting out. So how would, or what do you value, I guess, from a personal branding perspective?
Yeah, sure. So I definitely value being your authentic self, posting opinions that you genuinely believe. Don't just post it for the sake of it, because I'm a big believer in you attract the right audience, but you also repel the people that you can't help as well. That's just as important, because what makes sense to someone may not make sense to another person. And that's fine, because that other person probably can't relate to your services anyway. So I'm very big on not numbers, as in the amount of followers, the amount of likes. I'm very targeted in what I post. So I've got 3 content pillars that I personally want to be known for, which is recruitment, personal branding, and like motivational type quotes, like, you know, come on recruiters, it's just a bad day. You can do it type of thing, just to keep them going. So it's a tough industry. So everything I post is very specific and it's in that tone of voice. So yes, it, like you said, it absolutely takes time to build, but I think with that consistency in your tone of voice and your messaging, and if you know who your audience is, who you're speaking to, you'll naturally start attracting the right people to you. And, you know, as you get more likes, it starts showing up on somebody else's feed who is like that person as well. So that's how I've done it. Mine's all been organic, my growth.
Yeah, awesome. So good. Yeah, it's a hard market to crack. And I think now with like a lot of AI and ChatGPT and Bard and all of these writing programs out there, you can really tell who's just written into ChatGPT and then literally copied and pasted from ChatGPT onto the LinkedIn, and then no real thought about it. And then people have actually taken the time to write personalized stories and advice. Even if you have had the program, you've at least put into some thought to how to prompt it correctly or differentiate yourself. And I think as more and more people get used to these AI tools, the market, or not Facebook, LinkedIn becomes more saturated with content because everyone can do it. You have access to a writer, and it means that it's going to be even harder to stand out and have authentic content.
Yeah, absolutely. But I like what we said before we got on the recording, post controversial, but like your genuine opinion, but get the conversation going, because it's interesting for people and people want to know what you have to say. If you've got experience or knowledge in a certain industry, people want to know what that is, even if they don't believe it and they may challenge it. That's still also fine, because you get to know both sides. And I think that's when you start to become well respected. And that's something ChatGPT wouldn't do, and it probably couldn't do.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. The controversy is what sparks even curiosity, because then you think, oh, shit, I haven't thought about that opinion. Well, let me dive deep into this conversation a little bit further, and then encourages critical thinking. So yeah, I really value personal branding. It takes time, but it's certainly worth the effort, because not only does it opportunity from an employment perspective, but you just never know where else it will take you if you, put yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me personally, it's become my lead generation tool. Like ultimately, I have no problem getting business or clients, and it's because people see my profile and they're like, she does know what she's talking about, and it skips parts of the sale process. I don't have to go out and prove myself one-on-one to 20 different people in a month. People already see that, and they'll respond well when I contact them. Even if they're not interested in working with me, they'll always respond well. Keen to connect, happy to connect, and then quite often 3 months later they do reach out again.
Yeah, that's so true. I guess I'm in the same boat, having built my own brand, etc. And it's just nice that even if you don't establish a connection, a discussion right away, if you need something from them 3 or 6 months later, and vice versa, they want something from you, the small little gestures of the happy birthday or nice to connect, or rather than just cold calling directly and saying, hey, I've got a role, do you want it? So
yeah. Too salesy. And in a passive market, people don't want, here's a role, do you want to fill the job for me and make me commission? People don't care about that. People are like, how can you help me? There's a saying which is, people don't care what you do, they care what you can do for them. So yes, personal branding needs to have that personal element, but you need to solve their problems and add value to them. Because if you're just posting about what you ate, what you drank on the weekend, how cute your dog is, it's cute and it gets likes, but someone's not going to pay you money and work with you. So what I like to teach is like how to monetize LinkedIn, how to solve problems before that person's a paying client to fast track the sales process.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, your friend. Goodness gracious. Right, so we're at half an hour, so I will leave it at it. And just, is there any sort of hot tips or anything that you would like to give? And secondly, is there anything that you can provide people in terms if they want to be reaching out to you, or is there anyone that you would like to have contact you in able to support your business moving forward?
Yeah, awesome. So I would say my number one hot tip is build a personal brand as soon as possible. First in is the person that everyone's going to remember. So if in your industry, nobody's got a personal brand, for example, recruiter in an energy, who recruits within energy, if there's not an energy authority, you need to get there first because you'll be the person that's remembered. So just make sure that you start immediately. It really doesn't take that much time effort. You just need the strategy. You need to know what to post, when to post, and what people are interested in. All of that's what I can help with. So in addition to the Rec to Rec, I've also got Meta Brand, which is a personal branding agency for recruiters. So we run programs called Come In Unbranded, Leave Branded, and the entire day is basically just setting up your entire brand, your personal, your tone of voice, everything that you would need in terms of the post, the hooks, the body, the call to actions, templates for everything. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, you're a recruiter and you really want to learn to build your network, be seen as the most credible authority in your space, then I can definitely help. So just message me on LinkedIn, which is just Jessica Kimber.
I love it. Thank you so much. You've been wonderful. You enjoy the last of the evening, and we'll keep connected.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.